What is up, CSGs? Welcome to an on-the-road episode of the Rockets Chop Shot Pod. I'm here in beautiful Phoenix, Arizona for work, but wanted to get a podcast in after watching the Lakers versus Rockets in the game yesterday. Obviously, some disclaimers for that game. Second night on the back-to-back for the Rockets. I think that is something that should be noted. The Lakers coming off of rest. And so I think that possibly, because even though they didn't play a lot of minutes, just playing on a short night later than you normally would because of time difference between LA and Houston, all that baked in, national game, et cetera, rested the Lakers and the, refs obviously playing a part in it, home game for them. I think, you look at the final score, pretty close game, pretty good game against the odds against the Rockets. I think that they played a competitive game, which is all you ask. Seemed like in the past when we've gotten chances to feature ourselves on national TV, we always embarrass ourselves or get blown out. So it was good to be part of an exciting NBA game. I would say that was good. Obviously, a lot of discourse came out post-game from different things, right? There's a lot of ways you can go. The first place, just overall, the game plan that Ime Udoka employed of focusing on taking away Luka and LeBron. Whether that was sending late doubles or trapping or whatever he did, they emphasized taking away Luka and LeBron. Luka only had 26 and 9. And historically, for the way Luka's played the Rockets, that is a great Luka game, right? Because dude usually drops 40, 15, and 15 on us. It's like we're just easy picking. So that doesn't speak to the level of defense the Rockets have ascended to from, the past. So we are a better team. And the LeBron only had 16, 8, and 4. And taking away their star players, that was the game plan. It was, you could see it. And I tweeted this. If this is a 7-game series, I'm okay with that matchup. I'm okay with the matchup, and I'm okay with the approach Ime Udoka employed to force other guys to beat us. The problem is the other guys did beat us. Mainly Dorian Finney-Smith and Gabe Vincent, who both went nuclear. Let's see. Dorian Finney-Smith, 6 of 11 from 3, 54%. Gabe Vincent, 6 of 13 from 3, 46%. Mostly corner threes. Dorian Finney, a couple above the break threes, a couple slot threes. If they're going to do that for a full 7-game series, tip your hat to them. I'm okay with that game plan because I personally don't think that they would be able to do that in a full series. And I think when the moments get bigger, those guys will not be able to do that because you look at Dorian Finney-Smith in the fourth quarter when the game got a little closer, he was 1 for 3. And then Gabe Vincent, he also went, Gabe Vincent went 1 for 3. Dorian Finney-Smith went 0 for 1. I think the Rockets did a terrible job in closing out against those guys. I mean, there's one thing to try to take Luka away. There's another thing to just leave, butt naked open threes for these guys. So even in the game plan itself, I respect the game plan theoretically. I think in practice, they could clean up a lot of stuff that they did. They tried to do that in the fourth quarter. But by then, you got 2 role players that aren't usually that impactful going a combined, 12 for damn near 12 for 20, 24. So they shot 50%, hit 12 threes between those 2 guys. You're not going to win those games. You're not going to win those games because there's just too many options for LeBron and Luka to hurt you in giving that up as well. So I would say that was a not the tactics itself. I understand and I kind of agree with that, and I would do it in a bubble. And what I mean by that, in that game, maybe game 2, game 3, because what you fear is the adjustments from the veteran teams, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. But the late rotations or the lack of rotations, maybe you chalk that up to the second night of a back-to-back. That did not do us any justice. Those threes were back breakers. And to me, if we were able to limit those guys, we have a great chance of coming away with a victory for that game. The reffing situation was just horrible. I hate complaining about refs, but I'm going to call it as I see it. The refs were bad. A lot of just terrible calls against the Rockets. I think we went through damn near a half or a quarter without any fouls, even though our players were being hacked. And the Lakers were just getting all the random phantom calls. And the foul baiting stuff that the NBA said they would take out the game that James Harden used to do. Listen, let's not cap. As Rocket fans, we know he used to foul bait. And, they're supposed to be taking it. Remember that summer where the NBA is cracking down on the swipe ups and all that? then they did it for like 2 days and then went back to normal. So a lot of those ticky-tacky fouls, like if you're going to let us play a playoff type atmosphere, then they got to let us play, because a lot of our play and defense is predicated on physicality. And I think we did a pretty good job, even given those constraints. And, you know, it was just badly reffed, very lopsided. So I think given all for us to just lose by 6 points and had a chance to win at some points during the game, I think overall was a good game. Now, there are some things that were exposed in the game that we're going to talk about. The first is a good question by Reggie Miller that he asked throughout the broadcast. And Reggie Miller is not the greatest broadcaster. Now, I'm not a big fan of his broadcast. A little too, you know what I mean? Comes off a bit corny sometimes. But what he did ask about the Rockets, who's their go-to guy? Who's their go-to guy? You guys have heard me talk about the always, sometimes me, sometimes you, always us. Great mantra, great soundbite. That is great in the regular season when you're playing a team that is, you know, they're just on the second night of a back-to-back. They're just flying through Houston for one night. They got to go to San Antonio and Dallas, or you're just there for a day and they ain't got to worry about you for another 2 months. It's good because the variability of where the scoring comes from plays into that, so a team can't really pin you down. It's just that night. You're there. You play. A guy has a hot night. Maybe Fred goes off. Maybe a man goes off. Maybe Sengun, Jalen. It can work where you have that all lives matter, right? Where everybody gets to shine. In a playoff setting, that will not work. I don't believe it'll work because here, let me tell you why. There are certain players on your team that have certain functions, right? And being a go-to guy is a function. That is a function. It's a hierarchy display. It's a function of how your team plays, because one thing that you will not be able to survive within the playoffs is having a lot of variability. You could pick some of the best teams in NBA history, right? Some of the best teams with the best systems. Even in recent times, you think about the peak Golden State Warriors. Every team, no matter how dynamic their offense is, when it's time to close out a game, they either have a set or a player that they go to, because at that point in the game, all the checks, all the counters have been implemented, right? And the fourth quarters of close games that are really important, and these games for us was to clinch a playoff spot, and for the Lakers is to try to position themselves to be in a good position for the playoffs. You get to see coaches and teams really bring out stuff that you would not see on a sleepy January night on a back-to-back, right? This is April. I think the Rockets have 7 or 8 games left. The Lakers are trying to position themselves, get ready for the playoffs. You get to see a little bit more of the show of hands from teams and how they want to play you. And Ime Udoka had a game plan, rightfully so, that he stuck to. And the Lakers had a game plan, and they have 2 supercomputers as their ball handlers. So even if they had a game plan and they saw how we were playing them, those supercomputers are going to adjust in real time. And I think that's a huge disadvantage to us as a young team. And I'll get into that in a little bit. But just the fact that in an offensive setting, in the fourth quarter, there's so much variance and so much autonomy for the players to take shots, I find that problematic because it really does allow the defense for the other team to force players that aren't used to doing those things to do so. And you can't live like that on a night-to-night basis. You think about it as the series go along. Game ones and playoff series are really jab like games. Just feeling the team out. Just little jabs. We're jabbing, right? Game 2, maybe another jab game. You get to learn a little bit more. Game 3, that's when things start getting a little real, right? Especially if it's whoever the away team is, they get to go home. So you get a little, okay, this is our home. We get our crowd. We can fill it out. By the time you get to game 4, the series is probably already on and popping by then, right? And because at that point, you start knowing all the team sets. You can do minor counters like in after timeouts and things like that. But at the end of the day, it's going to come down to your go-tos and the guys. Can you get a bucket? Can you get turnovers? Can your defense get stops? Those are what these playoff games late come to, and late in series. Not only late in individual games, but late in series. And the later it gets in the series, more of the game is like the fourth quarter, right? By the time you get to game 5, 6, game 7, the whole game is the fourth quarter. damn all the sets, all the fancy plays and the this and the actions and this. What's your best action? Go to it. Who's your best player? Give him the ball, right? Let's get to our stuff because all the other stuff is not going to work. If you're a team like the Rockets and you get into a playoff series and you don't have that defined early on, what tends to happen is you're going to be searching for something in a moment where you need a definite answer. You're going to be searching for, man, should we go to a Dylan post up here? Or should we go to a Şengün pick and roll? Should Jalen be trying to go ISO, or should it be Fred and Şengün to pick and roll? Should we attack with a man? And in these series, you just can't live like that because on a night-to-night basis, the leverage of the games, the intensity of the games, the level of defense encountering that happens, a lot of these players that are role players, the reason they're role players is they don't have that requisite level to elevate to. Now, for the Rockets, we don't know that about any of our players, honestly. Right. And maybe that's maybe that's what Ime thinks. But I think that we've seen Şengün step up in key situations. We've seen Jalen step up in key situations more often than a lot of the other players. Fred, not so much this year, but in the past, we've seen him do it. A couple of times with Dylan, not a lot. Wouldn't live or die by that. And a man, one or two games he's closed out here, but wouldn't live or die. And after that, it really comes down to Şengün, Jalen, and then kind of everybody else fits in from there. I personally think that the two-man action has to involve Şengün in some way, shape, or form. For better or worse, him and Jalen are our two most dynamic players when it comes to being able to create, which was perplexing for me why Jalen was on the bench. You look at how the Lakers were hunting out Fred VanVleet, posting him up. Just his size became just such an issue. And Ime chose to go small. You can't go small with a small guard because not only don't you lack the interior just size to be able to deter people from driving in the paint. You're going to switch everything and your point guard is 5'10" against LeBron and Luka, bro. That's just asking for a loss, right? So I didn't agree with them going small, and I understood why they did it because they were trying to take away the Dorian Finney-Smiths of the world. They were trying to take away the Gabe Vincents of the world. But just play your base defense, bro. If I have a criticism for Ime Udoka, he's too pragmatic, meaning he always goes to what works in that moment. Whereas I think he's done a great job. I have nothing negative to say about him. If I'm, just being, I'm being picky here, I would say that he needs to trust his players more through the good, bad, and ugly because this is where it fits in. The playoff, it gets ugly. It can get ugly. As Houston fans, we know this. Watching James Harden, it can get ugly. So we need to build that. And I think it's too late right now to just say this is our thing that we're going to do in late games. It is going to be sometimes me, sometimes you, always us. And the fact that that is going to be relying on players like Dylan Brooks and Amen Thompson and Jabari Smith and Tari Eason and Jalen and Şengün and Fred on a night-to-night basis. I'm not comfortable with that, saying that this is the reason we're going to win a series. If we're going to win a series, it's going to be very matchup dependent, right? It's going to be incredibly matchup dependent for us to do so. So I think that's going to be something to look out for is who do they trust? I know the players have a lot of autonomy. I know we're proud that our players are able to score in double digits. That's all cool and well for the first 3.5 quarters of the game. In the fourth quarter, you got to have a set or a play or a player that you can go to that forces the defense to have to adjust. And I just felt like we abandoned everything and just kind of went into just trying to really catch up from behind. And once it got to that point, I kind of figured the game was over because you know what, the Lakers are going to have that. The Lakers are going to have that. So that's going to be a thing. And I think the good thing about what we're going to find out that we haven't got to find out yet about this Rockets team is who is that player and how do these guys perform under the scrutiny of a repeated game plan, right? Game one, like I said, you fresh, we're feeling each other out. Then after the games proceed from there, the other team is going to maximize all your weaknesses. They're going to show your weaknesses for every player. What are you weak at? We're going to make sure that is what you see all the time, right? They're going to try to limit your strengths and maximize your weakness. You can't shoot. That non-shooting is going to become a problem in the playoffs. You can't defend a certain action in the pick and roll or this or that. That not being able to defend the pick and roll defender is going to become a certain problem because they're going to pick the one thing you can't do and force you to counter to it. And that could be an Achilles heel for Ime Udoka as well. seeing how he's operated in the past. We saw what happened with the Celtics against the Warriors. They just attacked the drop coverage of Al Horford. And we've seen plenty of games where a team is killing the Rockets coming off a screen. We elect to not trap the players until late in the fourth quarter. By then, it's already too late. So that's going to be a big test for him to see if he's adjusted his thinking about changing game plans. In the playoffs, you might have to do it mid-quarter, at the halftime, adjusting. And we've seen him do it throughout the season. So I'm confident he will. A little wary about the players, their ability to adjust and adapt, because that's going to be really what determines whether we're successful. So a lot of people ask me, who do I think we want to match up with? Not the Lakers, I'll say that. Not because of anything. This game we just played against the Lakers, meaningless. Meaningless in the grand scheme. In the grand scheme, it's meaningless because just as competitive as it was, that supercomputer over there named LeBron James and that other supercomputer named Luka Doncic, they could have seen something in one play that you just didn't notice that could lead the series for us, them sweeping us. That's how the playoffs work. It's about adjustments, coaching adjustment and player adjustments. I think we have the edge on coaching. I don't think JJ, he's never been in the playoffs, but I think the fact that the Lakers practically have two coaches that play on the court, that's a big disadvantage for us because they know how to adjust in real time. And I think our young players are going to have to learn that in real time, how to do that. You're going against guys that can adjust. That's why in the previous pod I made, I said that if I had my way, I want to avoid these veteran teams that have been there, done that. Those teams, it's not a talent thing. In the playoffs, it's a battle of attrition and just IQ. And our guys are really young. They don't have the experience. And I think that depending on the matchup we get, if we get one of these vet teams, I think we can push the Lakers to 6 or 7. But I think they're going to beat us in the end. Just because when it comes down to high leverage moment, who do you trust more with the ball, Luka or LeBron or Jalen and Fred and Şengün? And I'm being totally transparent. They're young. They're young. They don't have that experience to be able to make those super high leverage decisions. But this is why you're happy that we're getting it now, because we get to answer these questions. So my matchups, give me other young teams. I said this last video. Give me the Timberwolves. I'll take them. They don't have any supercomputers on there. They have great athletes, some really talented players. I'll take them. Give me that. Give me OKC. I like our chances against OKC. I wouldn't mind playing them in the series. Give me Memphis, right? Let's beat up on Memphis. Give me, to me, the line of demarcation starts when you get to the Clippers, the Kings, those teams. They have enough veterans to hurt you, but the talent is not really, really deep. So you those become toss-ups. And then to me, then you get to Denver, Golden State, Lakers. I don't want to see these guys. I don't want to see these guys. Obviously, I think OKC probably beats us in a series just because they have a advantage at experience and they kind of have a set hierarchy of how they want to play. I can foresee us getting to that level next year. But right now is just a time for us to collect information. One of my friend Daniel had asked me a great question. He said, what is the best case scenario for the Rockets this year in the playoffs? Worst case scenario for the Rockets this year in the playoffs? And then what do you think actually happens? So my best case scenario is that, and this is the realistic bet. Obviously, best case is we win a championship. I don't think we're going to win a championship. I think best case scenario is we go to the second round and lose in a grueling series against a tough opponent. And we lose in such a way that a lot of our players are exposed for their weaknesses, and it pushes them to be able to address those weaknesses on that stage. I think that's beneficial to young players to know that you couldn't hit your shots in this moment. You got fatigued. They picked on you in this action, that you got to get better at this, and this, and this. I think that is a stepping stool to greatness that every player has to take. Jordan took his bumps, Kobe, all of them, Wade, LeBron. You got to get beat up before you get to that mountaintop. So if we were get beat up, I think second round, best case scenario, tough series against a great opponent that posed a lot of different tests for us, and we're able to figure some things out, but ultimately we lose. Players are exposed. The coaching is exposed. The roster is exposed for Stone to know exactly what we need. This is the value of the playoffs. What we face in the regular season compares nothing to having a team that plans for you every game, every night. They get multiple nights to come out and see what you do and try to take it away. We haven't seen our players under that scrutiny yet. So that'll be just fascinating for us to be able to see. I think that's best case. Worst case scenario is a matchup against a team like Golden State and we get swept or gentlemen swept in 5. Because in those things, when the teams are just a bad matchup for you, maybe we're not a bad matchup. Maybe I'm wrong. I just think we are for some of these teams. If it's a bad matchup, you get beat so bad, you really don't have any data to collect. You're just it's just a slop. And those kind of losses can be very, they can cause a lot of pain for the fan base, but it can be very dejecting to the players, where you just feel like, damn, well, I thought we got into a certain point. Second seed, you get swept. I think that's worst case scenario. So we should not get swept. I don't think that's going to happen. But what I actually think is actually going to happen, I think it's a first round loss, depending on matchup. I think we can get to the second round, but I think more likely, if I had to put money on it, I think a 6 or 7 game series in the first round. And that is perfectly fine. To me, the benefit of the Rockets for this playoffs is not to win a championship. It's to get data and assessment and experience. If they can do that, if they can get good data on their players and the roster, what are the things that we actually need? What are the huge weaknesses our players have? And just because a player has a huge weakness doesn't mean the player needs to leave the team or be traded. All it means is, as a GM, as a coach, how do we supplement that going forward? If they're doing this to us and this is what we saw in the playoffs, what are some things we could do? Do I need to bring in somebody from the outside to supplement a huge glaring need, like a go-to player? Maybe that go-to guy isn't on the team, right? Maybe we need to get different archetype. Maybe we need to get some shooters here, or play this lineup with this lineup instead of that lineup. All these things are found out in the playoffs, right? You're going to find this out, right? So that's why I think it's valuable for us to be able to actually get to implement our stuff, push a team, and then see what the results are. If we go to the second round, that'll just be anything from there is icing on the cake. I love that we're a second seed. I think that the Rockets have been playing hard, but I'm going to stick to this, my personal belief. I think records in the regular season, especially for a younger team, is more it means more than some of these vet teams. A veterans team's records doesn't indicate how successful they'll be in the playoffs, in my opinion, unless they're a historically good team like OKC's is charting like that, where they're just by osmosis just blowing teams out. That means they're just that deep, they're that good. But most of these teams, especially with older players, they really chill for most of the year. They're not getting up to win every game like younger teams are. So you really don't know what their next level is until games like last night against the Lakers, where you see their older guys turn it up to a different level. You'll see role players wake up and start doing stuff they wasn't doing all year. So it's going to be hard to really tell where we are, even though we're second in rankings. As far as the pedestal of, or the totem pole of the NBA's like best teams, I'm curious to see how we shake out in the playoffs. So it's all going to be matchup dependent. I think at this point, the Rockets have had an exceedingly successful year. Hopefully we can lock up that playoff spot so we don't have to deal with the play-in tournament and just wait to see who our competition is going to be. And if we get the right matchup, man, I think we can make it to the second round. But that is my takeaway from that game. I appreciate that game. Those are good games. That's a good loss. I know that's cliche, but that's actually a good loss in my opinion, just because you really get to see some things that you may give you a little preview to what could happen in the future, especially a great quality opponent. That Denver game is going to be very fascinating to watch. A lot of good teams we have on the record. I think for the Rockets, playoff preparation starts now. I hope Ime doesn't bench any of our core players going forward. At this point, the only player that you should be making benches for if you're going to go small against a team that calls for it, that may take your bigs off the court. Even then, that should be a break in case of emergency scenario. I don't ever see that as being a thing unless it's a situational like sub in, sub out type of a situation. Or if it's Fred VanVleet, right? Because Fred he gets hunted. The defense is concerning for me, especially against bigger wings and guards, because they hunt him out. But then you have the trade-off of him being a good facilitator. That's why you should invest in Jalen and Amen as we did when Fred was out, and keep investing. But like I said, Ime is practical, right? You got to invest that time so it pays off now. But we'll see how it goes. I'm excited for the slate of the rest of these games. I hope y'all are too. This is good times, man. Fun times to be a Rockets fan. We are back in relevancy, man. I was at the airport yesterday coming here, and they had the Rockets at 2:30 in the afternoon on the big screen at the gate I was waiting at on ESPN, talking about the Rockets on the Chiron at the bottom, just like, man, we're back. We're officially back. Hope y'all are excited about what's to come up with. I know I am. If you are new to the channel, make sure you hit the subscribe button. If you like this video, hit the like button. Keep rocking with the Chop Shop, and we're going to keep dropping that fire.
DJ Candlestick. It's the Chop Not Slap Show.